In this video, Dr. Jordan Peterson explains what women are really attracted to in men.
The fundamental archetype of male behavior is the dragon story, is confronting the dragon. And that's to go out, confront the dragon, which can be all sorts of things. It can be the absolute unknown. It can be the negative element of femininity, which is a dragon that stops men cold all the time. And usually what happens as a consequence is that the person gets a treasure or gets a girl. Okay? The fundamental female archetype, as far as I've been able to tell, it's a little harder to track down, it took me a long time, is Beauty and the Beast. And the reason I figured that out, there's a bunch of reasons, but I only figured it out about 2 years ago, and I thought, yeah, of course that's it. I read this book by the guys who do data analysis at Google, and it's called A Billion Wicked Thoughts. It's quite an interesting book. And basically what it is it's a study of search engine behavior. And you know, I think about 18–19% of search engine behavior is sexual in nature. And so then you might think, well, what are men doing and what are women doing? Well, we know what men are doing. They're looking at pictures of naked women, broadly speaking. What are women doing? Ha! They're not looking at pictures of naked men. They're reading about sex. So women's pornography use is literary. And so I thought, oh, that's interesting, that makes sense, because actually women read more fiction than men, by the way. Women are more predisposed to reading fiction. Women seem to be more interested in people than in things, a very stable cross-cultural gender difference. Anyway, so women are reading about sex. And you know that if you look at, when I was a kid and on holidays, summer holidays, my mom used to pack along like 30 Harlequin romances. Do you know what a Harlequin romance is? Does everybody know what a Harlequin romance is? Does anybody not know? Okay, most people know? It's a cheap pulp romance, you know? It's like deserving young women meets dashing and somewhat distant guy, and then he's already with someone, but she doesn't deserve him. And then she charms him, and then, you know, he decides that she's actually the one, and then she gets to have him, and then everyone lives happily ever after. So that's a Harlequin romance. Now, the original Harlequin romances, they published millions of these bloody things, was just that. And it was pretty plain, G-rated story. But since the 70s, Harlequin has exploded and it's gone from, G-rated stories of the sort I told you to like XXX versions. And they're all very popular. And those sorts of stories are also reflected in female use of the internet. And so what you see is that they look at Beauty and the Beast stories, and there's 5 major protagonists, and this is something I think is so absolutely comical, it just killed me when I first read it. Here's the 5 major guys in female X-rated pornography. Okay, werewolf, yeah. Vampire, yeah. Surgeon, yeah. Billionaire, yeah. Pirate. So, isn't that funny? Man, it just blew me over. But, you know, it's not much different in some sense than the male archetypal story of confronting the dragon, right? Because, and I'll show you something from Sleeping Beauty that makes this very clear. I'll show you that today. Because, you know, if you think about it, so these are kind of bad guys. Well, the werewolf and the vampire in particular, right? But the pirate's sort of up there too. And you might think, well, why would men like that figure in women's archetypal sexual narratives? And the answer to that is, well, what the hell good is a man who can't be dangerous? Right? You think about that. And you know, this bloody theme is played out in romantic comedies all the time. Think about it. There's the girl, and she has a friend. He's a guy. He's kind of a guy that never grew up. He's usually, what's his name? There's a comedian. Seth Rogen. He's usually Seth Rogen. You know, and he's kind of jovial, and he's kind of funny, and he's her friend, but he really wants to sleep with her, and she knows that, and so she knows that he's not just her friend. And he isn't just her friend. He just likes to pretend that. You know, and then there's the guy that she's interested in who's not like Seth Rogen, and he's got an edge to him, you know. And then the story is usually, well, it plays out. There's an interplay between those 3 characters. And, you know, the Seth Rogen guy is always going, well, why doesn't she like me? And the answer is, well, you just watch him for 10 minutes and you know why. You know, partly because she doesn't want a friend. She wants someone who's good for something. And someone who's good for something is someone who's got a powerful edge. And part of what happens in the female archetype is that the female civilizes that, at least in relationship to herself. Okay, so